Welcome back to WRPL, the podcast where we talk about all the things we are watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm okay. We got kind of a weird week. No major release to see. I mean, we went and saw Jaws for $3.
Mm-hmm. Not Jaws 4. That was $3.
Yes.
It was the original Jaws film.
Jaws in 3D.
In 3D.
Unnecessarily in 3D.
Yeah.
Didn't really add anything to it.
It's funny there's Jaws 3D, and we said Jaws.
We saw Jaws 4. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but no major releases this week that I cared about. So we're doing a little sampling of different things that have started up. I haven't finished really anything. All the things I'm going to talk about are kind of things I've started and are still in their run, except for maybe one. Mm-hmm. You got a couple of things. I'm going to let you go first. What's the first thing you consumed this week? Oh, and as always, spoilers for anything that we talk about.
Yep. Well, do you want to just jump into our hot D take?
Yeah, I guess we'll start with some hot D.
It's never a bad time to have some hot D.
So this is our third episode of House of the Dragon. And really, last week kind of made it seem like this was going to be like the big action one, which it does have a big set piece in it. But once again, this is not a very entertaining show. I don't care about anybody's story. I am more interested in just like the world in general and like the vague politics of it all. But I don't want to go through these steps with all these characters. I almost want to just jump to the end of this. Mm-hmm. I'm not rooting for anyone to live or die. I don't know. This isn't doing it for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly the setup season when it's like this is going to build all the relationships and you'll see where everything leads to. And then I'm hoping the next few seasons are like real war heavy, because so far all this stuff. So in this episode, this was the first episode where I was like, you know what, I'm actually like getting kind of bored of all this talk, because it's not like in Game of Thrones there was just so many interesting people talking. Like it was at its best when they were in a room and like discussing politics and like backstabbing each other, where this, like, they're always talking politics, but it never really seems that like there's not that much political intrigue. It's just like, you should do this. I don't want to. Okay. And that's it.
Is it because we are in a time of peace and there isn't these big playing moves?
Yeah, it's no one's. I mean, I guess they're at war with the Crab Man right now, but it's all pretty much. We're not getting a lot of it. We got a little piece at the beginning, which I thought was a pretty cool scene, like the dragon in the darkness. It really reminded me of like Rain of Fire, and that bit was kind of fun. And then we have a big battle sequence at the end, which I did enjoy. Because I'm just a big fan of, swords and people running at each other and dragons coming in. So that stuff was good, but it was the whole 45 minutes in the middle where I was just like, I just don't know if I'm like really into this at this time. I still am enjoying the show, but I need something to happen quicker. Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of the same. Oh, who's going to be the real heir now that you have your son? Are you going to do this? And is she going to get married? And it's just like back and forth of these conversations that I'm sick of having. Resolve it. Let's move on to the next thing. And I know that's kind of stupid for me to say, but I'm just not caring about their plight. Mm-hmm. And once again, they're doing more gross marriage ideas. Was I half asleep, or did they say marry your daughter to your brother?
No.
Or was it?
Yes. Yeah. It was to your brother. Yeah, you're Mary. I'm gonna say she's 18, 20 at this point. I could be wrong. And they're like, have her marry the 2-year-old. I mean, obviously not now, but like when he's old enough to marry them together. And he was just like.
And then you could still have your daughter as the queen, she'll still be in the charge, but you won't have people like giving her shit for being a woman because there'll actually be a male Targaryen on the throne. But it's still just so gross. Fuck these Targaryen people.
Yeah, it's funny because you see so many shows that are based off of, or movies that are based off of like books or something, where they'll change sort of the more taboo things in the story because it's like, oh well, we can't really pull like our audience won't root for someone who does incest or rape or is just like super violent. So we just tone all that stuff back, or we change it a little bit so they can like maybe kind of root for them. It's like with Game of Thrones, it's none of that. It's like you want to fuck your cousin, go for it. Who cares? Yeah. It's
no one looks at you poorly, and like it'd probably be better if you're gonna fuck a family member for political gain. I guess if maybe you did it for your own desires, that would be looked down on.
Yeah, but then at what point it's like okay, they marry each other to advance to maintain their political strength, but like they're still hooking up and stuff in order to like make more children. Yeah. Like I feel like there's at a certain point you're just like, yeah, I guess I kind of like them or whatever. And it's like, ugh.
But when you're, 16, 17 years older than your sibling, by the time they're old enough to wed, you're way too old for them. I can't say, you have to be a real gross person to eventually fall in love with your sibling with such a huge age gap. Like, I don't buy it at all. Hopefully they don't go that route. I don't know, but yuck.
Yeah, I mean, I won't tell you anything
oh, God.
From what I know of the story. But yeah, Targaryens are kind of gross, and it's interesting that, like, this is kind of the... you rooted for Jaime and Cersei. Oh, not so much Cersei. Well, Cersei was evil from the get-go, so you always wanted her to die. And you only kind of rooted for Jaime because he was nice to Tyrion. So, like, them dying or whatever, you didn't care too much about. But at least Jaime was, like, kind of a decent dude.
Sure.
Where, like, all these people don't seem like great people, and they may or may not fuck each other. And it's like, what? Why am I rooting for this family at all? And I think that's the biggest part of the show. Like, that's the uphill battle. Is like, why do I care about these people at all? Yep. Especially knowing that, eventually it gets to Game of Thrones and...
We know they're not in power.
The Targaryen line ends when Robert Baratheon takes over. So.
And I saw something, I think it was on Reddit, and someone pulled a line that Joffrey says from Game of Thrones, and I think he's talking about, what's her name?
Rhaenyra?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of spoiled it for me. I don't know if it's the same. Some of the information he gives is... lines up pretty well. Now, those little things I kind of forget from shows, so kind of sucked that I saw this, because I kind of think I know what's going to happen to at least some of these characters. And that'll be cool when it happens, but I'm even less invested now knowing, oh, this person is going to die because of this person? Oh, okay. I mean, that may be season 4, way down the line, but knowing that it could potentially be down the road just makes me lose even more interest.
Fair enough. That's another kind of challenge of the show. Like, Game of Thrones the books weren't done, so there's still a mystery to it. And like, yeah, they didn't stick the landing or whatever, but at least you weren't quite sure who was going to end up on the throne, or you weren't sure who was going to survive. Where like the entire history of these people have existed, whether like Fire and Blood, the book only came out like 2 years ago or something.
But there were still family trees.
But yeah, and like, George R. R. Martin had all this ideas and like knew where all this was. Yeah. So like,
that information's out there.
All information's out there, and it's been out there for a long time. So if you want to spoil the entire show, it'll take you 5 minutes to figure out everything.
Yeah, and I didn't want that, and it was just a thing I came across, and like, oh, cool, thanks, Joffrey.
Even after he's been dead for years, and he's still fucking us over. So, poor guy.
We didn't get as much of the Crabman as I wanted, but I looked him up to just see like, oh, who's playing this guy? He has like 3 credits on his IMDb, and this is one of them. He's like a nobody.
It could have been one of us. We could have been Crabman.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of this episode, do you think he killed the actual Crabman, or do you think it was like a
body double, a stand-in, like what Saddam Hussein would do?
Yeah.
No, I
like, judging from the trailer, it looks like he is officially dead.
You think?
For the preview of next week, because Damon comes back and he's like, I'm the king of the stepstones or whatever.
Sure.
It just seems like that's all done with.
No, I think he just got away.
Oh, you think he did get away?
Yeah.
It was just a double.
Does he get burned up? What happened? I mean, maybe I dozed off at that point. Doesn't he just kind of like...
So the Crabman, like, as they're doing the battle, he, like, sneaks away in his cave, and Damon sees him. And so Damon runs in after him, but then you don't see them fight. And at the end of the episode, you just see Damon pull this half of the Crabman, like, his top half behind him. And he's just like,
I didn't realize that was even him.
He slayed him off screen, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird.
No. That's just someone else. I don't know. Maybe he's in cahoots with the Crabman in some way, and this is some big ploy. I didn't even realize that was him that he was dragging out.
Yeah.
Dragging
out. Nice.
No, that would be stupid because it's whispers of this guy just to kill him off screen. No, that's...
I just found it funny where before this episode started, you're just like, I think the Crabman's gonna be the coolest character on this show so far.
At least he's the coolest looking.
Yeah, and then it's like dies in this immediate episode.
that would be pointless, but I mean, I guess if they don't have anything planned for him, why keep him around? Yeah, I guess, but no,
You think he's still alive?
I think he's still alive.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll tune in next week for episode 4.
I mean, of all the terrible stuff you watch, this can't be the worst thing you watch.
But see, I watch a lot of garbage, but at least it's entertaining. This is not entertaining. You could put a lot of effort and a lot of shine into the effects and the sets and the costumes, but if I don't like the characters, I don't like the actors playing them, and the story's not interesting, I don't care how much it costs. It's worthless. Mm-hmm. Whereas at least my trash, I know it's trash, and I know what I'm getting into. This is supposed to be just like this higher art, and just there's
prestige television.
Exactly, and I'm not getting that. It's just
not TV. It's HBO.
Yeah, I'm just not getting anything from this. So I won't call it quits until the end of the season. But I might not watch season 2 if it doesn't pick up. If it's more of this shit, I don't care. Game of Thrones is out of the pop culture world. No one gives a shit about this world anymore. I'd be okay with leaving it behind. Yeah. So.
All right. Do you want to go next? Or do you want me to continue?
You go.
Okay. So I've been listening to, I guess it's a podcast, but it's just an audiobook, really.
Okay.
So it's on Spotify. It's from, the podcast is called The Unexpected Journey. And what they're doing is they're releasing The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings books as audiobooks. I have done zero research into these guys, but I think it's just a group of dudes who were like, we love this and we want to be able to share with people, and so you don't have to spend like $40 on an audiobook. So I think they're just doing it for free, and you can subscribe to and give them like $10 a month or something for like discount on their merch. Doesn't matter. But I'm currently listening to the audiobook of The Hobbit, but they like have Howard Shore's music in it, and they have sound effects, and they have different actors doing different voices, and I don't know, it's been a lot of fun. I listened to like 4 hours of it on the way to and from the Renaissance Fair today.
Makes sense.
And the guy who they got to do Smeagol sounds just like Andy Serkis.
Oh, okay.
And they're doing their best Gandalf and Thorin impressions, which are like basically trying to copy the movies, but Bilbo sounds weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I would imagine a Hobbit sounding, but it's not how anywhere close to like what Frodo or Martin Freeman sound to me. Elijah Wood, I should say. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's actually decently well acted, and they're releasing episodes every, I think, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and each episode they release is just a new chapter. So there are only 3 chapters in the Fellowship of the Ring, so it's going to be a while before all 4 books of those will be out.
Sure, but 3 a week, that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
They could be doing 1 a week. Whew.
Yeah, and so that would be kind of a bummer. So it's nice that I at least have a whole book to listen to until I jump into Fellowship of the Ring, which I think I will enjoy doing more than reading the book, because as much as I love Lord of the Rings, as we'll talk about later, those books are not the most fun read, but if you add sound effects and Howard Shore's music and have actors in there, I was like, oh, okay, I can get behind the audiobook version of this.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings seems like a book I would get a couple pages in and then realize I haven't really been reading any of it. Like my eyes are scanning the words and I think I'm reading, and then I go, what just happened?
A name comes back up, and you're like, what the? Wait,
who's
this again?
Yeah.
Is
this a new one?
And talking about Tom Bombadil and all that wacky stuff. And you're like, what the fuck is going on here? It's like, this dude just... whatever. So I'm looking forward to that. And the best part is, it's completely fucking free.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Free and you're doing it on Spotify, you said?
On Spotify, yeah. It's called Unexpected Journey .show or something like that. Or that's their website. But
yeah, I'm sure if you search Unexpected Journey or Lord of the Rings, I'm sure you'll find it.
Yeah.
It's not somewhere. Okay. I started a show. It's on Hulu called The Patient. It has Donald Gleason and Steve Carell. Donald Gleason is a crazy person, and he is seeing... I was going to call him Michael Scott. He's seeing...
That's a crazy person talking to another crazy person.
yeah. He's... What's his fucking name?
Steve Carell.
Steve Carell. So he goes to Steve Carell, who's a great therapist, and he can't quite say all the things he wants to. He feels weird being in his office. So Steve Carell wakes up one morning and he's chained to the floor in the basement of a house in the woods in the middle of nowhere. He can't reach anything except his bed, his little toilet pan, and like maybe a chair. And he comes down and is like, okay, this is going to work better for me. I could actually open up to you because I like killing people. I know it's wrong. I know it's bad. I don't feel like a crazy person, but the urge to kill people is really strong. I even have like a name. He's like the John Doe killer. And he wants to genuinely stop. And Steve Carell's, of course, freaked out and like, this isn't how you do therapy. This is a bad environment. And he's like, well, if you're not going to help me, like, where does this leave us? So, and he realized like, yeah, you're probably right. Okay, let's do therapy here. So it's only 2 episodes out. They're only like 22 minutes long, real short. And you know what? If it has the trajectory I think it's going, I think this could be a really fun, interesting show. But it's kind of taken a while, even in these first 2 episodes, to kind of get the ball rolling. And like by the time you get to it, episode's over, and then the next one starts, and you got to build up again, and then it's over again. So hopefully, in the coming episodes, it'll get a bit better. But I'm into it.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for this recently, and how do you say his name? Domhnall?
Yeah, it's just Donald, even though there's an M.
Okay,
it's not Domhnall Gleeson, it's just Donald Gleeson.
Donald Gleeson. Okay, yeah. I really enjoy a lot of his work. I think he's a really talented actor, and so is Steve Carell. But like, the trailer made it seem like Steve Carell was kind of half-assing it. Like he just didn't look like he was really acting all that much. Okay, just from a trailer perspective.
No, he does a good job.
He does a good job.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the very first scene of the first episode is him waking up in the basement, and he's screaming for help, and he's trying to convey like extreme panic, but his voice gets like really high and screechy and a little Michael Scott like, so it's a little funny. But besides that, no, he's doing a good job.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, if I hear great things by the time the season's over, maybe I'll check it out. Yeah. My wife really loves, true crime, murder, serial killers, just like tons of women. So I'm sure it's something that she'd probably be willing to check out. Yeah.
Did you ever make her finish Under the Banner of Heaven?
Yeah, we finished it all together.
You did watch it together. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I suggest it to everybody because nobody seems to have heard of it, or they have, and like, oh yeah, it's that one show. And I'll get around to it. It's a really good show. People really need to watch it.
I mean, I know we already talked about it on the pod, but it's funny that there's plenty of people who can watch a murder, like some sort of murder show where it's like, yeah, and that's when the father of 5 snapped and killed his wife and 3 children. It's like, man, that's crazy. Oh, but it's like you watch a show where it's like there's one murder, but they're all religious. It's like, these fucking nut jobs. Someone can like go on a killing spree and be like, wow, that's upsetting. But it's like watching someone just like, I'm gonna do whatever I want because Jesus told me to. You're just like,
I had a vision.
How do these people think this way? Like they're more crazy than murderers.
Yeah.
Interesting world we live in. Yeah. Anyway.
So what else you got?
I watched season 1 of Primal.
Oh, goody!
Yeah, I've never seen. I started it. I think when it first came out, I watched like the first episode or something. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty good, and just like never went back to it. Because I felt like I wasn't sure if this show was gonna be for me, even though I've heard nothing but great things, and it has a lot of things I like when I love all the Disney short films where there's like no dialogue and everything's just conveyed through like emotion and movement
and eyebrow raise,
and just visuals. So I can't believe I didn't get into it back then, but I sat down and I just kind of needed something to watch, so I put this on, and it's fucking great, man.
Isn't it?
If you haven't seen Primal is a show about essentially a caveman type guy who teams up with a T-Rex, and they just go on adventures and fight big monsters and crazy magic people, and it just nonsense stuff.
Yeah.
It's like in a time period where none of these things should exist, and it's just a wacky show where it's like no dialogue, extremely violent, but visually appealing, but
simple too, not overly drawn.
Each episode's 22 minutes,
and a lot happens in every episode.
But I mean, even with no dialogue, there's episodes that are like pretty heartwarming, and I think so. Spear and Fang are the names of the two characters. Spear being the caveman, Fang being the T-Rex, and Fang is my favorite. I love Fang.
Yeah.
Spear's cool because he like clearly cares, but there's something about Fang. Like every episode, Fang like takes a nap, and just like the way it curls up, and it's like a giant fucking dog, and it's so cute and adorable, and it's like the perfect show for like a young boy becoming an adult, because it's like every young kid wanted a pet dinosaur, and then here's this like badass tag team duo who just going around fighting gorilla men and other big dinosaurs, and it's just so fucking cool. So nothing but praise for that. Although I did watch the first episode of the second season. Didn't love the first episode of the second season.
Second episode of the second season is great. Is one of my favorites.
I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about season 2. There's some visuals in the first episode of season 2. It's when they're on like the raft because they're chasing after whoever, and there's some good stuff there, but like I didn't care about the giant shark fight, and it just seems silly. It's like, how's this fucking dinosaur bouncing on this thing? Why would they make it bigger? Like, I had so many like logistical questions. And I know it's like, it's a cartoon where a guy teams up with a T-Rex. Shut the fuck up, Steve. But still, it's like all the other stuff I could forget. Like I could forgive the magic. I could forgive the black goo that they drink to like become super soldiers. Yeah. I can forgive all that. Putting this giant dinosaur in this tiny little raft is upsetting to me. And he chokes out a giant sea turtle. It's absurd.
It really is. I mean, they like take tons of arrows and slashes, and their body should be absolutely mangled. But by next episode, they're all healed up. On to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a cartoon. You just got to go with it, because otherwise, do we really want to spend extra time making sure that we have a big enough boat to get the T-Rex on? Who cares? The T-Rex is on the boat.
I didn't need him to build like something with sails, because he never made a ship before, so I understood like, okay, he would just build a raft. That makes sense. But it's like they're just floating out there. He didn't bring an oar. They're just kind of like letting the waves.
He doesn't know an oar. He doesn't know any of that.
But if I was a caveman or that dinosaur, I
wouldn't even get into the ocean.
Yeah, why would you go there?
Yeah, that's way too risky.
And especially because like I think they fought a giant fish or something like once they got to the beach, or in a previous episode, I kind of forget, but it's like, so there's giant scary things in the water.
Yeah.
And now you're just going to go into the open ocean of it? That's ridiculous. Don't do that. You knew this chick for like a week, maybe.
Yeah, but
I get it. It's like the first person. And I'm sure season 2 is all great. It's just the first episode of season 2, I was like, just okay. Do you have a favorite episode of season 1? Do you remember?
I like the mystical stuff. I did like the black goo.
See, I think that the black goo one was the most fun in terms of action because of how brutal it was.
Yeah.
But I didn't care for the black goo stuff.
I mean, there's a lot of in-betweener episodes like, oh, they fight a bunch of snakes. Oh, they fight... what was the one where you had to kind of hide at night because...
Yeah, so the episode opens and there's a bunch of there's 50 raptors chasing them, and then they go to this valley and all the raptors turn around and you're like, what's that about? And there's just like giant 10-foot tall like vampire bats that are like flying around. And that one was really crazy. That was like Fang pretended to be passed out so the bats would like take him to this like super high perch where I guess they eat all their victims. And then how did they get down? It was like a Monty Python skit, that episode. That episode was so weird. It's a weird episode, but just visually it's fucking awesome. Is the Plague of Madness episode with the zombie like brontosaurus.
Yeah,
so awesome.
Going through a volcano and this. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. But I think my favorite episode, it's not like the most exciting, but I just think it worked best as a story, is the woolly mammoth episode.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like they killed this thing because they were hungry, because it was like the weakest one in the group, and they like came back and they're like, no, we're gonna hunt down the guys who killed our friend. So it's just like all these woolly mammoths like going to seek revenge against guys who were just like, we're just cold and hungry. But then you find out there's like this whole elephant burial ground where they're all just like burying their friends and stuff. And it's just like so sad. And I don't know. I just thought it was like a very simple episode, but really cool.
They're really good at taking all these animals and not just make them crazy monster of the week. A lot of them have emotions of themselves. Like you understood the motivation of that like leader woolly mammoth. You knew he was trying to get revenge. And even just with like simple eye twitches, you know what Fang is feeling. And they're not just bloodthirsty monsters. I really like that.
So I'm sorry it took me so long, but Primal's pretty sweet.
Cool.
Season 2 is going on right now.
I think it's 1 or 2 more episodes left.
I think 7 or 8 are out, and they're 10-episode seasons. So I will be catching up shortly.
Yeah, and where it could potentially be going for season 3 is even weirder. There's one scene that I think you'll especially like.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you. You may not even care and don't even want to hear it, but I haven't brought you up to date on any Walking Dead stuff in a while. So
hit me.
There is a new episode tonight of Tales of the Walking Dead. So there's 2.
Okay.
2 episodes that I haven't talked to you about, and they're not bad. One of them's pretty good. One of them, nah. So I was right when I predicted that there was a Groundhog Day episode.
Okay.
And Parker Posey and her name was Jillian in that actress. They work in insurance. Parker Posey is the boss, real snotty. Everybody kisses her butt. Jillian, I'm just gonna call her Jillian. Is that her real name?
Bell?
Is it?
Is it?
Okay, all right. So Jillian Bell is the secretary,
Jillian.
And she's kind of out of it. And it's the like day 1 of really bad zombie outbreak. You could see people are starting to panic, and other people going, the hospitals are just lying to us. It's not really happening. But then gas stations are running out of gas, and they can't get out of town. And so they get into this loop at a gas station where Jillian Bell's trying to steal a tanker truck to get out of town and have all this gas, because that will be like the next big resource.
It'll be worth its weight in gold. Yeah.
Pretty much. And so they keep doing this loop, but that keep getting them blown up in the truck. Either they shoot a gun and it explodes, or they crash it, or someone gets in the way and fucks things up. And it's kind of great, but it's also extremely stupid at the same time, because they don't know if they're playing it for ridiculous laughs or a complete seriousness at times, and it hops back and forth. And so you have like Parker Posey running on the top of a tanker truck and jumping onto the hood trying to get her to stop, and it's a little too cartoony at times. And but they eventually get out of the loop. You know, they have a couple of heart to hearts. It was like, we never get past 5 o'clock. We always seem to die by 5 o'clock. And then the last one, they kind of save the day. They dump all the gas over the edge of a overpass to stop this horde that's everybody's trying to flee from their cars. So they do like this really good deed that they had to work together, and they get past it. But they're like, the tanker explodes and half their hair is all singed off, and it's just like a Dumb and Dumber bit or something. It's really goofy. So it was like a fun concept to see those early days of The Walking Dead, but I don't think they quite nailed it. The second one is a bit more typical Walking Dead, but it's a story about Alpha, the leader of the Whisperers. And what we got some backstory in The Walking Dead about her and her husband and her daughter, like in a bunker, and he was a bad man and he had to kill him, or she had to kill him. And we got a little bit of them on the run, but we didn't really know a whole lot. So they got picked up by people on a riverboat, and these riverboat people kind of, they want the prettiest and the best, and they're trying to hang on to the days of old and have fancy dress up parties and people serving them, and there's hierarchies, and of course there's people on the shore that sees all the stuff that they have and they want to get on, and they start killing people. And Alpha's daughter wants to be left behind because she hates her mom, because her mom is just like, everybody's evil, everybody wants to kill you, nothing is ever safe. And she's just like, fuck off, we're fine. This other woman who runs the boat, she'll take care of me. So Alpha's pissed off that her daughter doesn't even want to be around her. But of course Alpha was right, and they are able to escape. And she realizes her daughter isn't like strong enough to survive in this world, and she's going to slit her throat. And then you just hear like whispering in the background, and the whisperers come up and be like, no, she could be part of the next generation. And it ends. And I was really surprised because I thought Alpha started the whisperers. I didn't know she joined the whisperers and then became the leader.
Yeah.
So this was a good Tales of the Walking Dead that I kind of wish the show had two versions of it, where we have these standalone one-shots of people we'll never have to see again, and then little bits of characters that we already know and what happened to them. So it was pretty good, and there's a new one tonight. I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's a zombie love story starring Nicholas Hoult and Teresa Palmer.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is.
Where their cold bodies become warm bodies, I guess. Do you remember that movie, Warm Bodies?
Yeah, I remember Warm Bodies. Yeah. It was capitalizing on the Twilight thing. Like, if girls can fall in love with vampires, what other horror thing can they do? Oh, can they fall in love with zombies? Sure, why not? It's not a terrible movie.
No, I remember kind of liking it. Yeah,
it's just not the greatest. But yeah, Tales of the Walking Dead. It's fine. I think you would enjoy some of it more than like Fear of the Walking Dead. But I know you're never gonna watch another episode. You're not gonna watch the finale.
I mean, I just don't see the point. I mean, if you throw a Walking Dead watch party, I'll come over and watch it with you.
We'll record over at my place.
Okay.
On that night.
And because I mean, I guess in a certain way, I am curious to see how it ends, because like I know how the comic book ends, and I'm big fan of the comic book, but a strong hater of this show, as we've said in multiple episodes at this point. Sure, I'll watch the finale with you.
I'd like to.
Is Glenn still okay?
Oh yeah, Glenn's fine. He's perfectly fine. Yeah, I could see us watching, and you're just like, who's that person? Who's that person? Who's that person?
That character's still alive?
Rosita's still alive? Oh my god. And she's dating Gabriel? What the fuck is going on? I watched a movie today called C for Me, about a blind girl. She was an Olympic downhill skier, got into an accident, blinded herself. And now she's, she's kind of bitter about it.
Like she just hit her head on a tree or
something? They don't say
or?
Specifically. Something happened, and she became blind. And so now she house sits for people, and she answered an ad for this remote house, and she's going to be there for a few days. I don't know who hires a fucking blind house sitter. Well, it's really cat sitting, she says, but it's this huge mansion in the woods. But and the thing that's annoying about this movie is the lead is so obnoxious. Anything anybody says, she does the opposite. So they're like, oh, here, let me walk you to where the security system is. Nope, it's fine, I'll find it. Oh, okay, well, let me show you where the cat's litter box. Nope, I'm okay. Like, oh, okay, I mean, she's just trying to help out. And then there is
I'd say this to a person with sight.
Yeah.
So, So I'm definitely going to say it to you.
No, I'm going to walk you to. I know you could probably find it, but I want to make sure you know you're not pushing the sprinkler program and it's the alarm system. And so she has like a friend that will FaceTime her, and she's walking around the house, and he's telling her what to do, but eventually she can't reach him and has to download an app, and it's called See For Me. And it's just kind of, you call, and if you volunteer your time, your phone would ring, and it's kind of like an Uber, but for sightseeing people. It's so she calls and like, oh, hey, I locked myself out. Can you help me get back in? And of course, the woman on the phone that is helping her, she's a ex-military, and so she's a badass. Well, in the middle of the night, this house gets broken into by some robbers. They're trying to get into this safe. And so she's sneaking around the house, and they're doing these impossible things of like missing each other by a few seconds, even though she's, if someone's walking in the room next to you, I don't care how nice of a house it is, you're going to be able to hear them. Phone brightness all the way up as she's walking around looking for things. Nobody can see each other. There's some really stupid things like that. But one of the neat twists is the blind girl, like I said, she's kind of a shitty person. She actually takes these jobs and then like steals from these rich people, because who's gonna blame the blind girl? So she just takes small things, and then her friend who sees her around through FaceTime helps her sell it. And that's how she's trying to earn her money. So then she's called the cops, and then the bad guys catch her, and they're like, the cops will be here in 5 minutes. What are we gonna do? And she bargains with them like, look, I'm blind, I haven't seen you guys, I don't know your names, you guys can just leave. They're like, no, we got to get into the safe. They're like, well, I'll just tell the cops to go away. I was the one that made the call. You cut me in to whatever you're robbing. I'll get the cops out of here. So of course she plays it so poorly. Like they're telling her, okay, the cop, you want to make sure that the cop feels like they're doing their job and don't be suspicious. And then the cop shows up and like, oh, so you thought there was a break-in? No, I was mistaken. It was the TV. And like, really? You're going to try to sell it to the cop? That like, no one is going to believe this. And then eventually the cop...
Ma'am, are you sure you're okay? Are you in distress right now? No, I've never... No, sir, I've never been in distress in my entire life.
I'm perfectly fine. Yeah, exactly.
Would you say that to a person with sight? How dare you, sir?
Yeah, it's the most ridiculous acting. And even at the end, she's whispering to her, like, are you sure you're okay? Like, yeah, I'm fine. But then right as she leaves, her friend that was on the See For Me app had like called the cops for her because she knew that she was being broken into, and so like gets a confirmation on the radio right as the door is closing, and then she's got to like fight with the guys, and it's stupid, and she eventually shoots all of them with the help of the girl on the phone going like a little left, no, a little right, okay, split the difference and fire. And so she eventually like kills all of them, and
just the robbers, the cops too, or
the cop that did show up, she does get killed. She got strangled out.
Oh, okay.
And but then more cops are coming because she asked for backup, so she's able to take a bunch of that money and like hide it in her bag, and then cops come and everything's great, and she tells her mom like, you know what, I want to get back out on the slopes and really, do my sports thing again. Like, wow, how inspirational. But she's like, has a sly smile because she has a backpack full of money. And the end. and I was hoping it would be kind of like
Hush.
Yeah,
that's
but for blind people, but she's so unlikable. And every time that the person on the app would be like, wait, stop, don't go yet, she would like run as fast as she can. Like, okay, I think I need you to go to the left. No, I'm going to the right. She disagreed with her all the time, refused help from anybody, even just like let me walk you to the front door. No, I'll find it. And it's like, okay, but you're using this app because you need help. Then when the help comes, you don't do anything that they say. So she's just this really obnoxious character that you don't like. And then she gets away with killing a bunch of people, even if it was in her own defense. She did get this cop killed, and then she gets money. And then we see her go down the slopes again. And we're supposed to be like, yay, she overcame whatever was bugging her and making her a bad person. It's real bad.
It should have just been like, you see her go down the slope, but it wasn't a slope. It was just immediate cliff. Like that would have been...
Or she like smacks into a tree and dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we were hoping for. But no, it's more like Don't Breathe. But maybe Don't Breathe 2 because the villain is the good guy now in 2.
Right.
But how can you like him when you know all the bad shit he's done? I didn't see part 2, so I don't know how much they play up his good guy, bad guy-ness. So yeah, it's like a cheap knockoff of those. It's a this meets that of Don't Breathe and Hush. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, concept-wise, I think that could be fun, but it just sounds like execution-wise, it didn't work out. Because, we watched, well, you've seen it before, but you showed me Hush for the first time within this past year, and I was like, Hush is kind of awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
So the fact if you were like, oh, we're doing Hush, but with blind people, I was like, oh, that could be cool. Which like you said, I guess is Don't Breathe, but I never saw even the first one.
Yeah, first one's good.
Yeah. All I know is that he like gets killed quotation marks with semen blast.
No, it gets shoved down his throat. The semen in the inseminator, and then he pulls it out and it's like dripping all over him. It's pretty nasty, but it doesn't kill him.
The thing that kills him out. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he like choked on it, and he's like, as he's choking, it's like gurgling, flying out.
No. So yeah, I mean, when you roll, I was looking for a horror movie on Shudder, and I was like, oh, what about this? Oh, it's a foreign language film. It is dubbed, but I'm not in the mood for that, so I turned it off. Found another one, said it was in English. Nope, French film, subtitled. Okay, cool. And this was my third one, and by the time I found it, it's like, fine, fuck it, we'll watch this one. But yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch those other two because they seem way more interesting.
One final question about it. When you said her friend is on the phone who like helps her see.
Yeah.
Is that friend like speaking through the phone? Can like the outside world hear?
She has an
that was
earpiece
my question. She has an earpiece. Okay, yeah.
I think in the beginning she is just hearing it through the phone, but when the robbers are there, she has an earpiece on.
Okay, that's what I figured. I just wasn't sure if that was like a dumb thing where like, well, if I'm whispering on the phone, the burglars can't hear me. It's like it's a phone. They're going to
hear you.
Okay, yeah.
No. So our main topic of the day is The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, episodes 1 and 2 on Amazon Prime. I figured this would probably just be another week-by-week update, just like Hot D.
Yeah, we'll do a week-to-week, and then I think that'd be like a fun back and forth, especially talking about
talk one,
talk the other.
Yeah.
Because they're the two dueling mega-budget fantasy shows.
Yeah.
But at the end, I'm sure we'll do like a whole season wrap-up kind of thing.
We'll see.
Because they might even be ending at the same time, because the Lord of the Rings show is, I think, only 8 episodes. So they might. No,
Lord of the Rings is 9.
Okay.
It's 9.
Fair enough.
So this is Amazon's attempt at a big fantasy franchise, even though they have Wheel of Time, but that didn't seem to take off like they wanted. They spent $1 billion on this first season.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly, but I think that's including the $250 million just to buy the rights. And I didn't realize till after the first episode, they only have the rights to The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and the appendices. And no Silmarillion, and no any other supplemental material. So I think we're kind of like stuck in a little bit of a hole of maybe some stories that who cares? I wanted to see way in the past, and we get to see a little bit, but then we jump forward, and so now we're kind of in a middle point. But I think by the time we get to season 4, we're just going to be doing the Lord of the Rings again, potentially. I don't know, but it just feels like I know exactly where this is going, and so why do I care? I know Sauron's going to be defeated. I know where Galadriel is. I know where Elrond is. So like,
well, yeah, but I mean, if you were a fan of the books, as millions of people were when those movies came out, it's like you could say, well, what do I care about seeing these books come to life because I know where they're going to end? It's like, well, you're seeing something you haven't seen before.
Sure, I get it, but like I know Galadriel's fine. Like in that first episode, she's going into the clouds. Oh no, she's going into the afterlife. Like I know she's gonna jump off the boat. I thought the meteor was gonna hit the boat, and it was gonna be her sign of, oh, I have to stay behind. Look at this thing kept me from crossing over. Now I have more of a purpose. And like in the second episode, I'm like, oh look, here's this guy who's a really good blacksmith, and he's gonna create some things of power, and like yeah, he's gonna make the rings, and then Sauron's gonna make his own ring, and then he's gonna be defeated, and then we're gonna be at Lord of the Rings. Like I can't see what is gonna be so interesting about this journey. And so they pepper in a bunch of other characters, and we'll get to all the different groups, but like I don't give a fucking shit about any of these people. Like, I was not invested in Game of Thrones. I'm even less
House
invested.
of the Dragon.
You know what I'm saying.
I'm saying for the audience.
Okay, yes. Yeah. House of the Dragon, not super interested in it. This is even worse. I
really
don't care about this show. That first episode is one of the worst like season premieres I've seen since like Fear the Walking Dead. They try to cram so much like flowery dialogue and all these characters who you have no idea how they're connected anyway. It's like, I think it's a movie called like Slacker or Loser, where like you meet a character, they go down the street, they meet someone else. Then you follow that new person and then they meet someone else. And it just felt like we kept like hopping to the next person so they can hop to the next person. But I couldn't find like real connections besides they're in the same world.
I mean, it is the first episode.
No, I get
Are you
it.
supposed to be like super invested in everybody immediately?
Yeah. That's how you hook people on a show. It's like, don't you want to see what happens next to these people? Not at all. Because one, I do know where it ends, and none of these people are interesting. So I don't care how they get to that journey. I want to see like Shelob's mom and Morgoth and stuff like that. Like Shelob's mom's like a huge spider as big as a mountain or something. Like I want to see some of these other crazier things, and it just feels like The Hobbit, where you're going through that journey and then like, well, we need something here. Well, let's put giant rock monsters in the mountains just like throwing stones at each other.
I mean, that is in the book though.
Yeah, it's like, well, what does that add to this going on? Nothing. It's just kind of cool. Okay, let's just add a bunch of cool. And yeah, I'm sorry, Steve.
Let's add a bunch of cool. I hate cool things.
But it's just for the sake of being cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, Steve.
Interesting.
This is... I will say episode 2, much better. Now that I realize, these characters, these are our shitty, stupid leads. Okay, I can follow them because like now I know who they are. Let's see where their journey is going. And some of their stories like have interesting stuff, like the guy that fell from the earth and the woman's little boy finding the swords. Like, okay, I'm interested in where these things can go, but the people who have to like get me through that story are not interesting people. And some of them, I know I said this about House of the Dragon, but some people have these faces. Like Elrond has a weird Neil Patrick Harris face, and he's so distracting. His features are so sharp. He is the perfect person to play an elf. Like no one looks more like an elf than him.
Yeah.
But it's such an extreme that I don't like looking at him. And a lot of them are kind of like, I'm rambling. I
just find it funny. You're such a snob about people's faces. Like I've never met someone who's just like, yeah, I want to like a thing, but I just can't look at that dude.
Sorry. If you're weird looking, you're too distracting for me.
Doesn't matter how talented you are or how well you're doing at the acting job. If your face is weird, it's gonna take me out of it. Okay, well, I guess to no one's surprise who's listening to this podcast, I'm on the other end of the spectrum on that. Because when this, I was cautiously optimistic. I try to be cautiously optimistic about most things because it's like, why I'm off the internet now. I didn't want to see a bunch of the hate. I didn't want to because it's just gonna make me mad, and I just negativity doesn't really do anything except make you more negative. So I was like, no, let me just go in blind, and hopefully they don't fuck this up. And I mean, I loved the first episode. It's clear where all the money went.
Sure.
It's visually stunning in my opinion. Like every frame was gorgeous and impressive, from the ones that were clearly sets look great, but also the ones that were like clearly shot in actual nature looked amazing. I wanted to like cry for a big portion of this episode, not like from the emotion of the characters, the story, or anything, but just from like, I was just so happy to be back in this world, and just kind of, it felt like it had the Lord of the Rings vibe to me, and that's what I was like looking for. So that was really nice. I had no problem with any of the performances. I thought everyone was great. I saw one negative thing I saw was like people shitting on like the dialogue, because there's like one scene where Galadriel and Elrond are talking. It's like, you haven't seen the things I've seen my fair share, but you haven't seen what I've seen. It's like, how terrible that dialogue is. But then you have dialogue where it's like, who else hand is flame unquenched. It's like, it's
very flowery.
But I like that though. I like that it's Shakespearean, but you can follow it. Like you watch a Shakespeare play, 10 minutes in, you're like, what the fuck are they even talking about? Where like Lord of the Rings, it's like, yeah, it has this higher concept dialogue, which is just like no one in our world talks like that, but why would they?
Yeah.
So I like that it's, this fancy elvish Shakespearean kind of dialogue, but you know what they're fucking talking about, at least for the most part. Sometimes they use some funny names and you're like, wait, who's that? But that's just all fantasy.
Yeah.
They got Howard Shore to the music again. Howard Shore made one of the most iconic soundtracks or scores of all time in Lord of the Rings. So like even from like after the opening scene where she like talks to her brother and they're like, all right, well, let's go head back home, and they like walk over that hill and the music swells and you see the tree. Like I was just like, once that music kicked in, I was like, oh god, the music's fucking gorgeous. Like you can't shit on the score for this show. I don't think you can shit on the visuals. I think the performances are good. Yeah, but to each his own. And in episode 2, I really liked. I don't know I can't remember the dwarf's name, but I know he's from the line of Durin and everything. But like him and his wife and his family, I like seeing happy couples and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the dwarves are always like the fun group. And we talked about House of Dragon, how like nobody was like enjoyable to be around, where like he was to me. Like he's like not just. He doesn't come off as, I'm going to be the comic relief of the show, but he's like, I'm a real person, and I have thoughts and feelings, but I'm also like easygoing and fun, and I like the different races bonding together. It was just, it was a very pleasant scene that we didn't necessarily, because like the first episode was everything's dark and dreary and everyone's miserable because like we're hunting the evil of Sauron. But this next one was just like, oh, hey, buddy, where you been? I'm a little bummed you didn't come to my wedding. Like that kind of stuff. Like I liked all that.
Like, it's been 20 years. Oh, it's only been 20 years? But to him, it's like, fuck you, it's been 20 years.
Yeah. And I love seeing Khazad-dûm before, they dug up the Balrog and all that stuff. It was like, that was beautiful. I think it did a great job. And I have nitpicks. Like I think the human woman who's like in love with the elf man, I think it's weird to me how like she almost looks like she was pulled from our world and she just got trapped in the middle of her, because she's like so pretty and she's always like glistening with pretty.
Yeah.
And you made the entire village like these goblin like disgusting old people, and just like there's like one pretty person in the entire village, which like, if there's only 30 people in the village, that could happen. Yes. But it was just like, she just stuck out so much, it was like distracting. Like Éowyn, obviously Miranda Otto is a very lovely woman, but I like that she kind of was like a normal looking person. Like she was pretty, but she was Rohan pretty. Like Arwen, I get like the elves, they're supposed to be these like supermodels. I can get behind that concept, but it's like sometimes it's like, all right, well, why don't you just make the humans like not like, I don't want everyone in the show to be hot.
Yeah.
But that's a nitpick. Like if you're hot, I get it. You're an actor. Actors are good looking people typically. Yeah. So it's fine. That's just a little nitpick I have.
So let's talk about like the different groups, and let's just start with this one.
Okay.
So we have a human woman who has a son, and then there is an elf who has been on patrol for 70 years, 90 years?
79 years.
79 years, watching
essentially
over,
like elf cops for the area.
Yeah, just making sure no orcs come through or whatever. And so this human woman, let's say she's 35, that means he was here for 30 plus years before she was ever born, and then fell in love with her, which is another one of those like vampires falling in love with humans. Like there's a weirdness to it. Like if I know you live for a long time, but you saw this person as a baby and now you're in love with them years later and they're going to be dead in a blink of an eye. I don't know. It came off a little gross, but also so...
Did you say that about Arwen and Aragorn, though? But she's a woman, so it's okay that she has sex with younger men? Is that what you're getting at?
No, because he's also part of a race that lives longer, so it's a little more justifiable. No, it's still gross for all. Just like if you're a vampire and you're dating younger people, I know you don't have a lot of options, but it still comes off gross. Of like, I could be your great grandfather. That's how much older I am than you.
Sure, and I'll agree with you, but at least in Tolkien's world, no one's trying to have sex with minors or their cousins in Tolkien's world.
Selling them off at
everyone
12 years
is just
old.
like, we're all adults and we can have relations with each other. We'll do that then. So at least give him that credit.
Sure, okay, I'll do that. But in addition to this is probably my least favorite story of
Mine
all
too.
of them.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
The elf is not a good actor. He is. I understand the elves are supposed to be a little more stoic, but he is nothing. He brings nothing to the role. He is so boring. And the woman, like their secret love is so obvious. It feels like it's the start of a porn parody. They're so obvious with their flirtation and their looks to each other. It came off as corny. So I do not give two shits about these two, but I am interested in her son, and like he is like the one potentially evil person we've seen on the show. Everybody's kind of like making their way through the world, and we don't have like an ultimate bad guy besides Sauron. So I like that this kid is gonna be corrupted in some way. I don't know if this kid becomes someone that I should know. I don't even know his name.
Yeah, we don't know his name yet, which I mean could lead
they've
to
said his name, right?
Maybe.
Whatever.
If they have said his name, I've forgotten it.
But
So
I just
apologize.
his hate or the blood or whatever is going into the sword and getting bigger and bigger. I'll be interested in see where that goes, but where mom and elf, their relationship, I don't care.
Yeah, and I mean I believe we will see this show span thousands of years. Yes. So this woman who's in this first season, she very well might not be in the second season because everyone else has aged past her. But yeah, I'll say this is my least favorite storyline, only because, so if this elf guy is sort of like your Aragorn character, he's your badass, and from the trailers, it looks like, obviously he gets captured at the end of episode 2 by the orcs, and it looks like he gets put in some sort of fighting pit. Like, he's the guy who's like going to give us the action scenes until we get to like the bigger stuff down the line.
He's our Legolas and our Aragorn all in one.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a problem with his acting. It's just, I think it's easy to think, oh, that's a bad actor when your character is like, you're not supposed to emote.
Sure.
Like, that's kind of, the dark brooding type. So I get that. He didn't bother me. But I really enjoyed like him going down that tunnel, and I just thought it was like cool crawling around and him getting pulled back, and it like when he had the torch in front of him and he like looked behind him, I thought they were going to do an alien reference, and there was going to be one of those orcs there. So I mean, I'm looking forward to that because I want to see. I'm interested in the orc culture that we never really got in Lord of the Rings. So if we see that world and like what they've been doing this whole time, and just seeing what goes on there and some really cool action scenes, that could be fun. But in terms of just like the first 2 episodes, it's not all that exciting. I don't care about that woman so much. I am interested in the son, but one of my nitpicks from, I believe it was episode 2, is I hate when there's like some scary monster in a house and then someone's always just like, well, let me open the door just a smidge to see like what they're doing. It's like, don't do that. Just wait till you don't hear anything for like 10 minutes and like, okay, maybe it's safe to go out, and then you pop it up. It's like, no, there's something that if it was looking in your direction, it would see you there and then just instantly murder you. It was just absurd. But nitpick. That's fine.
Let's talk about not hobbits. What are they called? The hairy feet, fur feet.
The precursor to the Hobbit people, I assume.
The caveman version to our civilized city dwelling.
Where the hobbits all live in the Shire area and dwell there. These are traveling little people, and they don't stay in one place for very.
Harefoot? Is that what they're called?
Sure, Harefoot. Let's call them Harefoot. Okay. I thought like their intro was really fun, where they're like, all right, the hunters are gone, and they all just kind of like pop up from like their underground makeshift houses. I thought that was really cool. It's like, that was the another thing about the show. It's like every time I saw a new culture's place where they lived, I was like, I'd live there. Like I'd live with the hairy feet.
You've done that for like so many places. We see like little shacks on the side of the road, and you're like, I could live there.
I'm a very simple guy, but I just mean like I've seen the elegant homes of the elves. It's like, oh, what a gorgeous place to live. And then I've seen like the ramshackle, like, oh, I live in a moss pit. I'm like, oh, I'd live in that moss pit. It's real cute.
You're right next to a blackberry farm.
So that's another thing I like about the show is these different races all have different ways of living. It's not like when you're with a different culture, like you're absorbing something different. It's none of them look the same, which is what I like. It's like elves and humans are essentially the same, except one's got pointy ears and I guess
better hair.
Yeah.
But
like dwarves that look like humans, but they're just hairier and shorter.
Yeah, but everyone is so different, and I really enjoy that aspect of the show. But yeah, so we have Nori, who meets the Meteor Man, as the Stranger, as he's called on IMDb. Is he Gandalf? Is he Sauron? Is he Tom Bombadil? No one really knows.
Yeah, so this isn't an established known thing.
So there's a theory that the comments that you like, everyone who sees the comment, it's all like different timelines. So so Nori, they believe the man who landed. So some people believe, he's wearing gray, he's a bearded man. It's like, oh, this is Gandalf coming to Middle Earth.
Okay.
But this show is set in the Second Age, and I believe Gandalf doesn't come until the beginning of the Third Age to help defeat Sauron now that he's risen to power. So some people believe that this is actually Sauron coming to Middle Earth, and then this is...
But wasn't he already there? Where did he come from? If what's-her-face, if Galadriel is hunting him, he's already established.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, chronologically, Nori stuff is happening. This is before Sauron becomes the necromancer and like joins Morgoth's thing, and then all the Galadriel stuff is like stuff
years later,
like thousands of years later or whatever it is.
Okay,
that's the theory. Who knows?
If that is true,
I think that's how they're
being very confusing, because people will be like, "No, we all watch the shooting star at the same time."
Yeah, but you just have a scene where you go back, you flash back to that, and it's like, oh no, this is different. I mean, you could explain that very easily.
Hopefully they got some good writers if that's the case.
So yeah, that's a theory that they're trying to throw the audience off by like, oh, everyone saw the same thing, but it's not actually the same thing. It's different people coming to Middle Earth at different times.
Westworld, huh?
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly, the Westworld thing.
Okay.
But I enjoy that. Like, I thought, oh, it's probably Gandalf, and like, what a perfect way for like, of course, Gandalf would meet a Hobbit person first. It's like that's why he has such an affinity for these people. Yeah. And then I thought like, oh, well, if it's Sauron, like that could be a fun thing too. Of this little kind of person is the one who ultimately brings your downfall.
Okay.
And it's like, oh, this is the one that shows you, because I always find that interesting, the story of like, oh, a nice, kind, innocent person who's like believes in good is the person who finds the evil person. And it's like they're back and forth. It's like, oh no, like I'll teach him how to be good and then show him the way. Yeah. It's like, nope, I'm gonna kill this little girl Nori or whatever. And it's like, I'll just be Sauron. It's like you won't see it coming. And I don't know. I'm not sure which direction it'll go, because I honestly don't know who that character is. But I'm interested.
Yeah, I didn't like these characters in the first episode. I did like the revealing of the house. It kind of reminded me of Willow, But I didn't really love Nori all that much. Just, precocious young kid. Like, I want to see what's out there. There's got to be more.
Yeah, but I liked her. Like, I'll take a precocious, happy-go, like, I want to go on an adventure kid over, like, oh, my mom having sex with an elf dude or whatever. Like, I guess I'll steal this magical evil sword. Yeah. Like, that kid's an asshole. I don't like asshole kids.
Yeah.
So I'd much rather see her than that kid.
At least there's that. And I have always identified more with hobbits than any of the other races in Middle Earth. They just like are living the dream,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people who watch fantasy are like, oh, I'd love to be an elf, but most people are hobbits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you want to?
Well, actually, most people are probably orcs. Probably. If you're a halfway decent person, you're probably a hobbit.
Yeah. Just living underground, drinking, eating.
If you're Margot Robbie or something, sure, you're an elf.
You're an elf. Yeah.
But if you're an everyday person, you're probably just a chubby little hobbit person.
Yeah. So I'm interested in where their story's going, just because a person falling from the sky is pretty interesting. Yeah, but I don't necessarily love her.
Okay.
But we'll see. I guess it's like the storyline I quote unquote care about the most, just because it's the more fantastical one. Like, what is this dude that fell from the sky?
Yeah.
Whereas with other ones, they're like, oh, I'm making rings. Oh, I'm on a hunt. And other people, oh, I'm also on a hunt. This is a real mystery. So that has me more hooked than anything else in this.
Okay. I guess we have the Elrond storyline.
Sure.
I like that young Elrond is kind of a young politician trying to move his way up, and he's kind of serving under the high elf king.
Yeah, have you ever seen that the elves had a king before? It always seemed like it was more of a council thing. Did they have a king in Lord of the Rings?
There's like different kings of different realms. Like Lee Pace's character in The Hobbit, Thranduil, he was, I believe, king of the Mirkwood elves.
Okay.
So we've seen elven kings in the world before. It's just this is the first time we've seen, I guess, like the supreme overlord, high elf, or at least
It just doesn't seem like they would
the high elf king of this area.
It doesn't seem like they would have kings. Like they're so enlightened and in touch with nature and yada yada that they would be more of a council of 5 or something that not one person rules all of us. It just seemed kind of out of place, but what do I know?
Yeah, well, I mean, even though that they are long living, wise, enlightened beings, I mean, they're still fallible. They still make mistakes. They still get jealous, or like they have the whole spectrum of like human emotion. It's just like they're quote unquote better than the mortal man at like making better choices or whatever. So like having an appointed leader isn't like that crazy of a concept. Sure. So I mean, that doesn't bother me. I get what you're saying, but I also think it's fantasy, so like there's just always kings.
Yeah.
There's not usually a democratic system in this kind of stuff.
It kind of took me by surprise.
Yeah, and maybe it even makes more sense for elves to have a king because like because they're so wise, they're less likely to do shady stuff,
Sure.
And they can just go like, oh, hey guys, if we're the team here who are leading armies against the evil of the world, we should have somebody who like tells us what to do, kind of thing.
Sure.
So we're all on the same page, as opposed to like, well, I'm really smart. Well, I'm really smart too. It was like, well, I've lived for 1,000 years. Well, I lived for 1,100 years. It's like, well, 100 years isn't that big of a difference, Gary. It's like, well, when you've read as many books as I have, it's like,
it seems like it would be like a council of 5. You have the elf that has been alive for 100 years, and then you have the elf that's been alive for 500 years, and then 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever.
Since the sun graced the sky, I've been around.
These sections, and then when the oldest one retires or whatever, everybody moves over, and then you bring in a new one. So you always have a younger generation getting to the older. I don't know. Just spitball.
Sure, Ben. You know fantasy writing better than Mr. Tolkien himself, the grandfather of or the father of modern fantasy, whatever.
Yeah. So anywho, Elrond meets his friend. He's introduced to like the world's greatest blacksmith, elven blacksmith,
Celebrimbor,
which is I find weird that it just seems like elves wouldn't have blacksmiths at all. That's a dwarf thing to do, but
they all need weapons, man. Like,
but see, that's how the society should be working. Like, you need weapons, you got to get them from the dwarves. You need ships, you got to get them from the humans. You need special herbs for healing, you got to get it from the elves, and that's how like commerce works amongst.
Well, no, like how the real world works is like everyone does stuff. There just might be cultures who do other stuff better, and it's like so. Yeah, you might have the dwarves who are the smithing people, but elves they live way longer, so why wouldn't there be better elven smiths than dwarven smiths?
No, it makes sense. It's just another one of those things of like, I didn't think they did that. Just like seeing a dwarf make a beautiful tapestry. It's like, oh, do they do that? That's a thing. I thought
they're artistic as well.
I figured they just dealt with the rocks, and then the elves wouldn't have metal work in that way. They would be able to soak a rock in special waters with the special flowers on top of it, and then through their elven magic, they're able to pull the sword out, and it's beautifully crafted just out of this hunk of stone. They wouldn't actually have to work the metal. Something like that.
Sure. I mean, I think I prefer it the way it is versus just like my culture does this, your culture does that, and nothing ever changes. I like that they can all do everything, because I think that's what people would do. Or like, even if the elves when they first came over to Middle Earth from Valinor, and it's like they met the dwarves, like maybe the dwarves didn't know any of that shit, and they're like, oh, we learned so much from the elves. Maybe. Now we're very good at these other things that we never even tried before, and we taught them some stuff. Maybe. Or they were just like, no, elves are dirty and small and gross. Get the fuck away from me.
You mean dwarves? You said elves are dirty and small.
Oh, and gross. Yeah, dwarves. Sorry.
And hey, screw you, elves. Like, you had your own land. and you had your crazy evil war or whatever, and then you come over to our land and you bring it with you? That's what happened, right? Because it seems like, or they were like fleeing, and then the evil followed them, and then fucked up Middle Earth.
I could be wrong about this, but I thought that, like, so I had war in Valinor with Morgoth, and like, because we saw at the beginning, like, their tree, the light of the tree was disappearing or whatever. And, you know, you have some Silmaril shit, and we won't get into Silmarillion because I'm not an expert in the Silmarillion at all. But I think what had happened is, like, once they defeated Morgoth, Sauron had, like, gone over to Middle Earth and was gonna, like, take over, was attempting to take over Middle Earth, and they're like, we can't let that happen.
Okay.
So then they came over from Valinor to help protect Middle Earth. They didn't, like...
It seemed like they brought it over, like they were fleeing their land.
They might have. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's what happened. Okay. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, like, the elves are the America of the Middle Earth world. It's like, oh, if something's going on, I guess we should go over and
stick our nose in
it.
And then, you know, prounce around like we're the best. So, anywho, Elrond and his friend.
Yeah.
What's his friend's name?
We're just going to call him Durin because he's from the line of Durin, which is the same line that Thorin comes from, the dwarves of Erebor and all that jazz. One of the royal lines of dwarves. I believe, I don't know if his friend is the one who's going to get it, but 7 rings do go to the dwarf lords, and his friend might be one of them.
Okay. Because the elves need to create a furnace to create this rings of power. They don't say the rings of power yet.
This new project.
Yeah, we need a furnace to do this thing, and imagine the crazy magic we can do with that. Okay, so let's get help from the dwarves. I have an in with him, and then it will be a great race relations PR piece for the Gazette. So he goes and meets his friend, and he has to like prove himself to be worthy by splitting stones. And
which is another little culture thing that I thought was fun. I like that.
Did he just... Okay, I was unsure. Were the rules you have to keep going until one person doesn't break? Or he did the right thing because it was actually a trick? You're not supposed to be busting the rock. You've got to kneel to it and show and pay respects, and that's what got him an audience. Or did he just straight up lose and convinced him to give him an audience with his dad?
Yeah, I think he just gave up, and it's like, we'll have a heart-to-heart on the way out kind of thing, and that'll be what does it.
It just seemed like one of those trick things of like, ha ha ha, an outsider should not disrespect the stone by smashing it. You should take a knee.
Well, yeah, like he looks at the hammer and there's like writing on it, but it's never mentioned if like he read that and it said something specific that the audience doesn't know. So I wasn't quite sure what that shot was really trying to establish. It was like, oh, like you said, I didn't pick that up. I like your reasoning. Or if it was just like, no matter what, I can't win this thing, so I might as well like lose now and like
I'm glad it
lose
was
with grace or whatever.
A rock breaking contest, because I had a feeling it was going to be a drinking contest, and I was like, oh my god, we've already seen this. We know how this is going to end. So I'm glad it was a dwarf centric thing.
Yeah, because we had that in. I don't know if it was in the theatrical cut, but it might have been in the extended where like Legolas and Gimli have a drinking contest. And
I think it's in
Gimli,
theatrical.
Yeah,
I think
maybe
so.
Whatever.
I don't watch theatrical anymore, so.
Where Gimli gets super fucking drunk because Legolas elves, I guess, metabolize alcohol. Like
Wolverine, Captain America.
Just they can't get drunk. But yes, I'm glad they did something different. And yeah, so they have a conversation, and we meet Durin's family, and he's like, I need your help. Get the dwarves together, build this forge, and I guess once we're done, we'll hook you guys up with some treasure or rings of power, I guess. Yeah.
Or trees, because he like has a tree growing in his house, and all the dwarves thought that was stupid. I like that.
Yeah. But, we have Durin who goes to his dad, who's the king, and is like, hey, we should help the elves. And he's like, no, let's not do that. We have other things we need to worry about. And we have this Pulp Fiction open up the briefcase scene, which I'm guessing is supposed to be the Arkenstone.
Yeah, that's what I
that
assume. Comes
into play in the Tale of the Hobbit. And the dwarves delve too deep and too greedily and thus release the Balrog that will eventually...
You think we'll see that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the trailers you see
We do see one.
the head of the Balrog.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But it could be a fucking vision for all we know. Someone looking
Oh
into
yeah,
like,
sure.
a
I'm not
pool of
sure if
water.
we'll see it this season.
Okay.
But it's definitely leading to. I mean, the Fellowship of the Ring crosses the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, where they encounter the Balrog.
Yeah.
They're in Khazad-dûm right now.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
But also, how many years are we before Lord of the Rings?
Well, if they're doing jumping timelines, I'm not exactly sure what year this is.
But if you had to assume, are we 1,000 years or are we 10,000 years away?
I'd say we're
Like, how long is an age? Because we're in the first age, right?
yeah. Well, the ages, it's not like every 1,000 years is a new age. It's like the ages change based on like major events, I believe. So I want to say this is 2,000 years before the Fellowship of the Ring.
Okay.
That's my educated guess. So yeah, interested to see where that goes.
Yeah. That's like...
This is the most likable storyline.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to kind of see how the rings are made and like the justification for a lot of them and how they're dispersed and the arguments that come from that. Yeah, this is probably the more interesting story, but there's no like big questions here. It's like, yep, they're gonna make some rings. What's gonna be the big threat?
Yeah, I feel like
issue here?
Episode 1 for me was, look, we did it. Here's all this fantastic, crazy stuff. It all looks gorgeous and awesome and all that stuff. And then episode 2 was like, just, we're moving all the pieces into place. And by episode 7 or 8, that's when like you're just going to see the real crazy stuff. That's my guess. So season 1, I don't expect to be battle heavy. Like we've seen a bunch of shots of like that charge that Galadriel's in. I don't even know if they're actually charging at an enemy. I think it was like that could be the very final shot of the season. Sure. Where it's just like, all right, guys, let's go, and they just like ride off, and the music swells, and then cut to black as they're like in full sprint, but you don't actually see
Linkin
a battle.
Park is playing.
What I've done. Transformers references.
Do you think we'll see a sympathetic orc character? Like, we'll find some that are living underground and they're just like, we were just following orders. This isn't really our fight anymore. Now that he's gone, we're just trying to live our lives.
That was pretty good. That was a pretty good voice. Not bad.
Thank you.
It's funny. I was having this exact thought the other day. I was just like, because that's what I really enjoy about the Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War games. Is like you gave the orcs personality and culture, and some of them were willing to like, oh yeah, fuck that guy, and some of them were just like, no, he's kind of our boss, so like we're gonna kill you. But because Tolkien, that's like the kind of the weak part of Tolkien for me, is that it's just a story of good and evil. Like orcs are always bad, and that's it. It's just like there's not a lot of, second guessing who they're working for. It's just like, nope, we're evil and we're going to do evil stuff.
But you have orcs and goblins, and it's like they can't just be born evil. They had to have been corrupted in some sort of way. So there's got to be some outliers in their group.
Well, I mean, I think orcs or goblins may have been something that thousands of years ago were corrupted, and that's why they're just born essentially evil. Which but in terms of the show, I don't think we'll see it. We might see orcs with like more personality, but I don't think we're gonna be like having like an elf team up with an orc in order to like sneak out of the orc base and just like, hey, you helped me out of this jam, I'll help you out of this jam, and then they try and double cross each other. I don't necessarily know if I need to see that. I'd be happy if the show's just like, nope, there's good guys and there's bad guys, because like that's kind of the world that Tolkien's always established. That's here's the evil bad guys, here's good guys.
Sure.
And then like Saruman's like the one guy who's like kind of in between. He's the spy.
Well, I think with the elf who's going to be in those like gladiatorial fights, and maybe he can meet an orc who's forced to put in these pits because of punishment or whatever. And
I mean, they happily kill each other and stuff all the time.
Yeah. So, and it's like, oh, hey, I'll help you get out if you help me get out. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I can see if you're going to add one, you add it to that story.
Oh,
like, I don't,
100%.
The Hobbit people, I think it'd be too close to having, like, you have Smeagol and Frodo. Well, now we have, what was her name? Hilda? Gildy? Nova? What's the Hobbit name?
Nori.
Nori. like Nori and an orc, like a wimpy little orc, and they become friends. That's a little too similar to Gollum and Frodo.
Sure.
So I think you add it to that one elf story. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
And then he, gets shot in the back. They're trying to fit through a hole, and he pushes the elf through and like, go finish your mission, and takes a bunch of arrows for him, and then he dies.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to see that, but I'm open to all possibilities because as much as I love Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and all that stuff, I'm not like a purist. I'm open to trying new things, especially in all this shit. It's all like there's lots of information, but it's also there's not a ton of information. It's both like thought, like there's the history is there, but how all this history plays out to the T is not really written. So like have fun with it, guys.
Yeah,
Shut the fuck up.
You could say like there was a war that lasted 100 years. Okay, well that's a lot of information for saying very little information.
Yeah.
A lot of things happens in 100 years and why this war went on for so long, but you could just easily sum it up. War happened for 100 years. So yeah, you could have fun, and I'm fine with all that. My boss, who's a big purist, he's fuming at everything. He hates the show so much.
Well, here I really didn't want to get into like negative stuff.
And we don't have to every week.
No.
Unless I hear something good, then I'm going to bring it up.
The one thing I'll say about Tolkien fans, or at least
all fans,
it's like there's people who are just who watch like a YouTube video or whatever, and they're just like, well, Tolkien didn't mean it this way or whatever, and it's like they're the purists, and it's like, so it's got to be like this. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Shut up. And it's like because you like a thing and you like did some research. Me as a person, that's me, but doesn't mean you know fucking everything. Like I feel like so many people are just like, oh, I know exactly what it's like. Oh, well, the books didn't say that. It's like, shut the fuck up. Most of you don't actually know anything. Like, do you know how much lore and shit is in this world?
Yeah.
And you're gonna tell me there's like Oxford level professors who have studied this for 30, 40, 50 years to be Tolkien experts, and you're telling me when you're sitting on the toilet taking a shit, it's like, well, Tolkien, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Just sit back, enjoy it, and if you don't like it because the acting's not for you, because it just didn't become the story you didn't expect, it's kind of boring. I get all that. Fantasy is kind of boring. It's just my shit. But I think the show is a lot of fun. And if this show didn't have Lord of the Rings attached to it, you'd be like, wow, this show is impressive. Look at all this crazy stuff. Maybe some of the story isn't for you. Not everything's perfect. But I just think if you're a Tolkien purist, just shut up.
I understand not getting the thing you wanted adapted the way you wanted it, sure, but
that's everything that's ever been adapted.
Exactly. And people hate on comic book movies because they're not. Age of Ultron movie is nothing like the comics, and Civil War is nothing like the comics. It is just an adaptation. So just
Lord of the Rings, the films, the greatest films of all time, are so different from the books.
Sure, but they're also pretty faithful compared to other things that get adapted. Like, they don't make, Gollum like 6 feet tall. They don't change things so heinously.
In relation to that, though, at least those were full books that had the story that you could choose all the best stuff and change all the weakest stuff.
Yeah.
Where this is the appendices of lore, where there isn't a story.
Yeah.
And they gave a story to something that has a vague story. So, and we've only seen 2 episodes.
Sure.
Wait till we've seen at least the first season and then really judge it. And then wait till season 2. Maybe it drops off in quality a ton. Or maybe they're like, okay, well, we know what didn't. Most shows need a season or 2 to find their footing.
Yeah.
So
you look at Parks and Rec, that first season, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Season 1 of Breaking Bad, great, but dog shit compared to season 5.
Yeah.
It's like, The Office, the first 2 seasons are practically unwatchable for me, but later seasons are so fun.
I wouldn't say unwatchable, but they are rough.
It's like that, but I don't like cringe, and they're very heavy on the cringe in the first 2 seasons. Like so many shows, like they don't know where their actors are gonna be until they it's like, okay, this actor's really good at this. We can mold this better to the story. We can take elements of whatever. It's just sometimes it just needs a minute to breathe. And like the second the show was announced, they're just like, nope, it's gonna fucking suck.
Yeah.
So just relax, everybody. Now I'm all worked up, Ben. God damn it.
I'm sorry. I'm still gonna stick with it because I do like the world. It's just it's another one of those things that I'm not heavily invested in. So I'm just here for entertain me. I don't know much about your world, so sell me on it. And they haven't yet.
Yeah, that's the big uphill battle with fantasy though. It's just like if you just say entertain me, it's like, well, then you just want big battle sequences, which can be cool.
Sure.
But then you're just like, well, you're just throwing a bunch of action at me, and there's not like story or characters I care about. It's like, okay, well then we give you stories and characters. Like, but now
it's boring.
Now it's boring. They're just like it's so much exposition because it's world building, or like I don't remember everyone's names. It's like so that's kind of so it's either boring because there's no action, or you make it all action, which is boring because you don't care about the characters.
Sure.
And so it's like it's a very hard balance to do, and I think the show relies a lot on like, oh, who Elrond is, who Galadriel is. Anyone who's watched the show has probably watched Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
So
if you aren't familiar with this at all, I could see you going in and just being like, what is this?
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what I would think of this show if I was 13 and had never seen Lord of the Rings. Because when I saw The Fellowship of the Ring, I didn't know it was based on books. I didn't know I didn't know there was a trilogy. So when the movie ended, I was like,
what the fuck?
What the fuck? Like that's the end. Like they didn't get nowhere close to the mountain to Mount Doom. What is this? And it's like, oh no, there's 2 more movies coming out. I was like, oh cool. And so like I went in blind, and it became my favorite thing of all time. So yeah, I'd be interested to see like non-fantasy people who have never experienced Tolkien ever. Like if this is your first thing, I'm really interested to know.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of harder to find because if you've never seen Lord of the Rings, you're still living in a world where things like Game of Thrones existed, or even to an extent like a Harry Potter or something, that enough about these things, even if you haven't seen it. You know what an elf is, you know what a dwarf is, and
yeah, just growing up, if you never watched Lord of the Rings and then you're watching other stuff and they make reference to it, or like you've seen other fantasy stuff and you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, like every fantasy thing after Lord of the Rings was just trying to copy Lord of the Rings essentially, because like Lord of the Rings did everything the best, so that's where you're getting a lot of like your shots and your ideas and your thoughts from. Is like it's all pulling from Lord of the Rings.
Sure. But then like I think if you went into this with seeing everything but Lord of the Rings, I can like, yeah, sure, it looks nice, but what is this? This isn't that gripping of a story. Like Game of Thrones, that first episode is pretty interesting and like ends with him falling out of the tower or getting pushed out of the tower, and it really sets the stage of like, what's this going to be about? You go into this and it's hard to figure out what is it about. Okay, we know Sauron's the bad guy and we want to stop him, but that's only like one person's journey. What the hell is everybody else doing? And I can say just not I don't know, not winning people over instantly.
Sure, but I mean, I think once again, to constantly compare Game of Thrones to Lord of the Rings, or at least these shows, I think Lord of the Rings is like, we're gonna do the big picture story, where Game of Thrones has the with like super high concept, where the Game of Thrones is just like, it's all about the interpersonal relationships, and it's all like, there isn't a ton of magic in Game of Thrones, at least not until like the very end with like the dragons and all that kind of stuff. It's all very like, if you took away like the names, you could have just said like, oh, this show takes place in medieval England, because it's just people in rooms and castles talking and stuff. There isn't like a ton of fantasy shit in Game of Thrones until later on. So that's, I think, where it differentiates. It's like, here's the thing where it's all magic, high concept, big sweeping, epic, and then you have this thing which is like, oh, we're all hanging out in rooms.
This is a political drama.
This is political drama. Yeah. This is something completely different. So like, you can. They're like the two big franchises to compare, but they're two drastically different kinds of stories. So it's like, if you like that kind of story better, more power to you. I understand that, because those characters talking is super compelling, where this isn't so much. Yeah. But if you want a story about like the power of friendship and good versus evil and doing the right thing and like small everyday deeds, like
bigger themes, and where Game of Thrones is more like bigger stories.
Sure.
Like,
so it's just pick your poison.
And if you want a happy medium, watch Wheel of Time. It's better than both of these. Wheel of Time season 1, first episode, hooked instantly. I knew who the characters were. I knew what the big story for the whole season. I knew the major threat. I knew what was at stake. And it's fantastic. And, I haven't read the books, and I know everyone who read the books, I guess, thinks the show is the worst thing ever, but I thought that was a great show.
Here's the thing about Wheel of Time, though, the books, is that they're on my to-read list. There is like 14 or 15 of them, which just feels like nerd homework to me.
Yeah.
But I've listened to podcasts where people talk about Wheel of Time, and even people who love it, like it's considered one of the greatest fantasy series of all time. Even though like some people's like, it's just kind of ripping off of Tolkien or whatever.
Yeah. But
like everyone says like those books are kind of a slog. There's a ton of stuff that just like
a million characters.
It's just like so boring because it's 5 books and one character hasn't done anything in 5 books, or like Robert Jordan like didn't always write women in the best way. They're always kind of like a nag or something, and it's like it's a great series, but it's got a ton of writing problems. So it's like it's weird that that's considered this like iconic thing, but it's also like not considered a really well written series as well.
Yeah.
So like I find that interesting.
So hey, let's.
So yeah, that's the happy medium. It's like George R. R. Martin, great characters, interesting story,
big political world.
Yeah. Tolkien, big concept, the father of fantasy. He kind of had the issue of like going first. I don't think he would write those books this way today.
Sure, probably.
But that's the great thing about the fantasy genre. They're all kind of just pulling from each other, but there's some interesting fantasy stories out there. There's a lot of fantasy stories that I would much rather see than maybe Game of Thrones or Wheel of Time. But if any of these take off, we'll see if those get made.
Yeah.
So just try reading new books. That's the end story of this podcast. It's like, go read other fantasy and then come back and see what you think about these stories.
I just don't want Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings to constantly be coming back for their seasons
at the same time.
Yeah. So Amazon, you have Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings, and HBO has Game of Thrones. Work together and give us one per season. So this is your summer show, this is your winter show, this is your spring show, or whatever. And space it out enough so you don't have to necessarily compete, because the people who like one are probably going to be watching all of them. It's the same demographic, so why make them fight, especially if they want to watch both of them. So just spread it out, and there's enough fantasy love for everyone.
Yeah, I agree, because, if the concept is, well, we're going to make them compete because it equals clickbait headline titles and it gets buzz, and so it's just like 2 franchises hating each other at the same time every year. It's like that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of toxic, and it'll like not do favors for your show, because everyone's just going like, your show sucks. No, your show sucks, as opposed to going like, oh, I really enjoy this show. I also enjoy this show, and I'm glad that I have them spread out and can just like, I can just focus on this fantasy series versus I'm focusing on 2 fantasy series that are completely different from each other, who have different concepts and ideas, and but I am only allowed to like one because the fans tell me I'm not allowed, but the fans tell me I'm not allowed to like either. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Why? Especially if one of them is much worse than the other, why set yourself up to be automatically compared to the other one? Because you may think you have the better one, but you could be wrong. So just spread it out, give 2-3 weeks in between a season, and then drop something new. HBO also has His Dark Materials. I know it's a little further from that.
No one's watching His Dark Materials.
His Dark Materials is better than all 4 of these. It's the best of these options.
I did watch The Golden Compass when it came out, though.
Golden Compass ain't bad, but the show does it's crazy. People knocked that movie for being bad, and I read that book. It's a great adaptation. They just change one thing at the end. They get all the beats, and the show is really good at like really stretching out and making some of those things have a little more weight. But the movie's great at compressing that whole book into one thing. So if you like the movie, you should like the show, and season 2 is even better. And I can't wait for 3 because it'll be done. It's just bing, bang, boom, over with, and we don't have to be
there was like talking polar bears fighting each other. Yep. And that shit was awesome.
It was awesome. And he smacked the jaw off the other one.
That was
pretty cool.
Yeah. So real quick, we didn't talk about the final storyline.
Nope.
The Galadriel storyline.
Yes.
I assume this is the one
this is like
second most.
Yes, because she's so fucking stubborn in the beginning. Like, look, we've been following him for years. He's gone. We are in a land that like nobody's ever been before, and we are dying left and right. It's time to go home. And she's just like, nah. we're going to push even further because I saw one sign. And they even said, like, that could have been left like years ago. How do you're not right. Yeah, you're not right on his tail. So right off the bat, she's an unlikable character. And I know she's driven because of her brother being killed, and now it's her duty. But come on, if you can't see how illogical you're being, why should I get behind you on your quest?
But yeah, I agree, and I see what you're saying. The only reason I'm willing to like sort of justify it or let it go is in terms of we always look at characters how we see ourselves as humans, but she's an elf, and it's like, yeah, maybe this grudge has lasted 500 years. Like 500 years to hold on to a grudge is a long time, but we've established that like years don't really mean much to elves, so they can go on a quest for 100 years or whatever. Yeah. It's kind of like a blink of an eye to them. So like her going on this super long journey, like I don't necessarily hate the concept of like, oh, I've been searching for him for hundreds of years or whatever it is, because like that's just kind of what elves do.
I don't want to see the tail end of that journey though. I wanted to see like her setting off and building the clues, and you find one orc and it leads to the next thing, and we get to the very, very end of it where it's just, oh, it's already over. Which but
I think like a lot of people would go like, oh, let me see that, and then you see them going, oh, I've spent an entire season following them, and it just like doesn't equal much because it's just like, sure, oh, here's a clue that doesn't mean, oh, it gets me to the next clue, but it's like, oh, I'm still 100 or 200 years away from actually like them even fucking meeting. Sure. So
but I think that's an interesting story of hunting down Sauron, and I know that's eventually what
she's still doing
we're gonna get. But it felt like a wheel spinning a little bit in the beginning, and I don't know.
In a certain way, it's the tail end of one search, but the beginning of another.
Sure.
Like she's still searching for the guy. It's just like, this is the first part that we just caught the tail end of. Like, you've been looking for a long time. Mm-hmm. He's not around. Oh, now you found a clue that he's around. Okay, come back and do it again.
And so when she's in the water and she gets picked up by those other people, who are they? Who are those people on that raft?
I mean, I imagine you'll find out. Obviously, they were humans, and I think they said they were on
a bigger boat.
A bigger boat, and well, obviously, it's not like they just swam.
Oh, it was the worm that got them,
but
right?
yeah, the worm attacked their boat.
Yeah. So they're just people in the ocean.
Yeah, but I believe from the trailers and the guy that she teams up with, I imagine they're from Numenor, and that's where they're heading back. Galadriel and this handsome Aragorn-looking type guy.
Oh, what are the odds that the handsome one survived and everybody else died?
Yeah. They will be heading back, and that's where we'll see the city of Numenor, which is this famous city in Tolkien lore that eventually there is the fall of Numenor, and it's the race where Aragorn is part of. Mm-hmm. They're the race of...
But we don't see any of that in the movies, right?
No. Aragorn is the only Numenorian that we see, because their people were essentially almost wiped out after the fall of Numenor. And as he said in the movie, there's only a few of them left, and they have long lives for humans. They can live to be like 250 or something, but which is still like nothing to an elf, but they can live a pretty long time or something. Yeah. So we'll see eventually what happens with Numenor and all that. But I believe that's where Galadriel and him and I forget his name, they're going.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised we didn't get like a big close-up shot of like what exactly the sea worm looked like, but it looked cool.
Yeah, I think because it's not gonna ever show up ever again.
I don't think we'll ever see it again now.
But it's a shame, because I like big sea monsters. Yeah. They're scary as fuck.
Yeah, big sea monsters are scary. Yeah. The only problem I have with that bit on the boat is like they were constantly like tying ropes and stuff, and like if they're just tying ropes to like keep the thing together, I'm okay with, but it almost seemed like we're tying ropes so we can kind of like steer it. But it's like, you're not steering anything.
No.
It just seemed like they were like, we need you guys to like look busy on the boat because there's nothing else for you to do.
Yeah, she kept putting a rope around just a piece of wood, and she's yanking on it. Like what are you doing?
What is it doing?
That's nothing.
If it's going to come apart, it's going to come apart.
Yeah. I didn't know this actress at first. Her name's like Morfydd Clark.
Yeah. Going to the IMDb, like half the people in the show have fantasy names. It's like, oh, if you go to another country outside of America, people just have like real elven names all the time.
The Morfydd. Yeah. Morfydd. What a name. But the only thing I knew her from is from a movie called Saint Maud. That's pretty messed up. I recommend that. It's got like one of the the better like final shots of a movie. But I think she does an okay job as Galadriel. I see it. The casting's not weird, but she's just, and it's my problem with all the elves. It's just like that highfalutin, flowery language that just, I know they're supposed to be so much better than everybody else, and it shows, and it makes me not like them. And why do I want to follow her if she's just going to be like this?
Nah, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd much rather them do that than go like, oh, hey, Elrond, we should go take out Sauron. Because otherwise, that wouldn't be so lit. Dab.
Yeah. And then the Predator, like, hand clasping with big bulging muscles.
Elrond, you son of a bitch.
No, I get that. But, yeah, I'm just not... it hasn't won me over. I'm not sold.
I mean, I'm never surprised that you hate things anymore. Because every time I'm like, oh, I think Ben would like this. Is so well made. Or it's just like, no, this is boring as fuck. I hate it. I don't like these things. Give me a stupid horror movie where people can't see, but they have nonsense logistical reasons. Like, no, this movie sucks, but man, I had fun with it. It's like, what are you... we're not going to get into it.
It's all entertainment. And if you're not having fun, then what's the point? And if I can have fun at a really bad Sasquatch costume,
sure,
that's a good time. But I have a $1 billion series and it not be fun? It's not fun. It's not entertaining. It just is.
I think that's just you and fantasy.
Maybe.
I've
never been anti-fantasy. Like I love Willow. I love Legend. I love Lord of the Rings. I'm game. It's just I wish there was a little more variety. That's why I think maybe why I like Wheel
I've never
of Time.
seen Legend, but I'm gonna say
you're not. I don't think you'll like it.
Yeah, it's like at least Willow and Legend. It's like they're singular. Like that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Although we are getting the Willow series on Disney Plus, which I think didn't look as bad as I expected it from the trailer anyway. But
something we don't need. Mad Morgan.
No, I'd be interested. Like that show comes out and you're just like, yo. Willow's awesome.
Maybe.
And I'm just like, God damn it, Ben. Fuck you.
I like that world. It's fun, but like everybody's pretty much dead or extremely elderly. So I don't know. It's a little too late.
But there was one last thing with Galadriel I was going to say. Oh, the biggest thing is I understand people going like, oh, I don't like Galadriel in this because she's, the kind of also stoic badass type who's just kind of a dick because she's on this mission. It's like I kind of like the idea that she's this way, and how do we see her become Galadriel,
sure,
queen of Lothlorien, essentially, who's like this, and that's obviously she gets a ring of power and she becomes this, this higher being amongst the elves. Like I'm interested to see that transition. Like I don't want to see a Galadriel who's just like, oh yes, I'm Galadriel. We must stop the Dark Lord. And then she's just that for 10,000 years. It's like, oh, give me the Galadriel who was a warrior woman who's like learned a lot from her journey, who got a ring of power, and then became leader of the elves of Lothlorien. Like I'm interested in like I'm okay with that change if it leads to that and like what kind of character arc that might become.
So shouldn't they have maybe done it backwards and made Elrond the one going after Sauron and Galadriel be the friends of the dwarves? Because in Lord of the Rings, it's Elrond is helping, I can't remember the guy, after they defeat Sauron and they're going to go dump the ring, and Galadriel's...
Isildur. Yeah.
Galadriel's nowhere to be found in that fight. It's all about Elrond. So you would think that that's his long journey is finally reaching to this point instead of hers. So what happens to her that she's not even at this fight, but she's still like alive, she's still doing her thing. So I feel like maybe they should have switched their stories for this show.
Well, and once again, this might be explaining the lore or whatever. But I guess you could say like, well, Elrond is, if he's the politician of this one and he's, friends with it would make sense that he's friends with outside races and all that. And, in the Lord of the Rings, the films, he kind of seems like he's kind of like anti-dwarf. He's just like, these guys are coming into my house and like fucking my shit up. It's like, oh, fucking dwarves, I hate dealing with them. Like maybe we'll see that. It's like he was friends with Durin and that relationship eventually did fall. Maybe because he's like,
you need to stop digging. Something bad's going to happen. It's like, well, no, my dad says we have to. And then they raise the Balrog, they die. It's like, I can't trust dwarves. Sure. Or there's multiple thousands of years of history of reasons why like Elrond might eventually kind of go like, you know what, I just can't fucking deal with elves anymore. Where like dwarves, god damn it. Where Galadriel, she might have like traveled the world and she loves all races and she doesn't have a problem with it. And so she like, when she gets a Ring of Power and moves to the Lothlorien and becomes like their leader, it's like, and she's just hanging out with elves all the time. It's like they might just share stories of like why these other races are great. So it doesn't have to be that. And it's like, so when Gimli shows up, it's like, oh, I met people like you in my travels and I have nothing against you. You're very sweet and kind and we're all on the same team here because we're all trying to just survive and defeat evil. But Elrond's just like, I tried coming to the dwarves and telling them to stop or telling them I needed help and they fucked us over. So don't deal with that.
But they get the Rings of Power and she has one and then she doesn't do anything with it because like they get their rings, then Sauron gets his ring. He starts, laying waste to everybody, and Elrond stops him. So what is she doing this whole time? Now, I'm sure there could be a thing in the show, like she goes to face him, she gets stabbed in the stomach, she has to be taken away to be healed by special elven healers, and that's why she's not in the fight. Okay, that's fine. And then Elrond's like, well, now that my best friend is injured, I'm going to pick up her fight in case she does die, and that's why he's in the final fight. Whatever it is. But it just seems like with where Lord of the Rings starts, those stories should have been opposite.
Yeah, I mean, well, like you said, we could very well see what happens with that, and I guarantee it's in the lore. I just don't have it on me. It could
Check your pockets.
It could just very well be like, oh, well, Elrond's gonna go fight. There needs to be one of us kind of. Like, if you guys fail, someone needs to lead the elven people.
And you're the stronger and more wise, so we need you to stay back at home.
But in terms of, like, she has a Ring of Power and she didn't do anything, like, spoiler for the, the rings themselves, it's like when they made the other Rings of Power besides the One Ring, like, Sauron didn't know that he made 3 elven rings in secret. So like one ring to rule them all. He was supposed to control the elves as well, but they were never corrupted by him because their rings weren't made at
just
the same
the dwarves
time.
And the
so the dwarves and the men, they were corrupted and they ultimately like died and became Nazgul and all that kind of stuff. But like that's why the elves are the only ones with Rings of Power left, and they weren't corrupted by the evil of Sauron because there's like. Their boy kind of helped him out in the back alley. Gave him here you go, guys. You're not.
So did Sauron like kidnap the guy who made the Rings of Power to make that, or does he do it himself?
So, spoiler alert for obviously. And so what happens is Sauron is in Middle Earth and he's in disguise, and I forget the name, but he's not going as Sauron, and he meets Celebrimbor and he's like, hey. I have this, I'm going to give you the tools. I want you to make these rings for everybody. And gives them the tools. He's just like, essentially like a helpful elf who's like, oh, you're a powerful elf, I'm a powerful elf. We can make these things together.
It just so happens I have these blueprints for something real special.
You build this forge, we can make these rings, and we can use these to like fight against evil. And Celebrimbor is making the rings, but what he doesn't know is that they're getting made with, corruption and everything. Okay. And so like, then Sauron makes his own ring that will corrupt these other rings that he tricked Celebrimbor into making. So that's what happens.
So he was kind of like taking notes over his shoulder, kind of like in Breaking Bad when Iris starts making the meth in front of...
We're going to compare every show we ever watch ever again to Breaking Bad. So yes, 100%.
Okay, because I could just see him, he's making like, yes, and 4 elven rings for us. And then he goes and grabs them and like, wait a minute, I only have 3. Wasn't there a 4th ring? And Sauron's just like, I don't know. Did it fall under the table? Check under the couch.
Yeah, so that's the loose story, and then
now give me the tight story.
Yeah. So that's how the One Ring to rule them all comes into power and corrupts all the other rings.
So and it's like knowing kind of all this, and we know this is where it's going. The really only true interesting story is just what is the Hobbit lady and the fallen man? What's that all about? Because everything else is just Sauron, Rings of Power. And we kind of know that. I don't think it'll be all that interesting. And so we'll have to fill it with a bunch of smaller stories of, Galadriel and this dude, they have to pass through a small village and then they help someone because bandits are helping. That sort of lone gunman traveling through the land, where I think we're going to get a lot of little bullshit like that.
Sure. I think you're looking at it the wrong way. I think it's just a matter of enjoy the journey, not the destination. And you're just writing off the journey because you know where the destination is.
Potentially, yeah. So they gotta.
It's like you and I can take a road trip to Vegas and like, oh, when we get to Vegas, it's gonna be a good ass time, but I don't care about this trip. It's like, oh,
yeah,
but maybe
you're traveling through the desert and it's ugly as fuck.
But I mean, if we leave from where we live, which is a secret, and travel to Las Vegas, we might stop off at these other. It's like, oh, world's biggest ball of yarn, and you think it's gonna be dumb, but it turns out like that's where you meet the love of your life, or you go down this road and we popped a tire, but we met this cool band of traveling gypsies or something. When I say gypsies,
you're not allowed to. Traveling clowns,
and we went on this crazy adventure. Or we like met this group who was like, you want to do ayahuasca with us? And we had this great enlightenment. I don't know, man. I'm just saying, like, Vegas might be cool, but we might discover along the way that there's a lot of fun to be had.
And hopefully there is. You know? So, Lord of the Rings, show me your big ball of yarn, you know?
Yeah, so long story short, I'm enjoying the show. You're not. Hopefully by the end you can go, oh, this might be worth my time. And I'll go, I'm glad they made this. Yeah. Versus, they shouldn't have done this.
Hey, and we're already scheduled for a second season of Game of Thrones and this. So,
one way or another, we're getting at least another year.
We're getting some more.
One final thing is, I thought it was funny when they showed that big battle sequence in the first episode of like the elves fighting the orcs and stuff. The opening shot of that was one of the like fell beasts like just taking an eagle to the ground. It's like, you guys thought the eagles could come in and just fix all your problems, huh? Oh, were they coming down like burning planes and just killing a bunch of people? It's like, fuck you guys.
Fuck the eagles. Oh yeah, here they come to save the day.
This is why they don't get involved.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Because I'm a Lord of the Rings guy, you don't know how many times I've had like the eagle conversation. It's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It's not a real conversation. It's like, well, you're dumb. And it's like I give them the exact reason. I give them multiple reasons why, and they're just like, nah, that's dumb.
Yeah, but they could be. It's like, oh, hey, we got to blow up this secret aircraft carrier. Okay, they're going to see any plane coming in from miles away. What we got to do is sneak a one man with a scuba mask on to get in and crawl up the side of the hull and sabotage the boat. You can't send in the planes with the bombs because they're just going to shoot them down. Mm-hmm. Same thing.
Same concept, but people are just like, nope, dumb. No, it's a book. You could have written around it. It's like, then it wouldn't be a story, friend.
Exactly. Just fly over and drop the ring from space.
It would have been one chapter long.
Oh boy. Do you have anything else for Rings of Power, episode 1 and 2?
No. I just look forward to more episodes, and I hope that if the show gets all 5 seasons, that they maintain a good quality and keep me engaged. And I'm looking forward to seeing big, hopefully big sweeping action set pieces, but also some really sweet character moments, because some of my favorite stuff of even the Hobbit films is just good people just wanting to do good stuff, and there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. The idea of good versus evil is often like kind of so boring, because it's like, oh, well, if they're just evil, then they're not interesting villains. Yeah. But there is something to just seeing. It's not really about the villain. It's about just good people wanting to do good. And it warms my heart, and I hope that that's what we get from these further Tolkien episodes.
So what's next week?
Honk If You Love Jesus, or whatever.
Wasn't that this weekend?
That came out this weekend. I know. I was just being a dick, because we're not going to see that.
No, we're not seeing that.
Hang on, let me check.
Yeah. I keep seeing, like, we went and saw Jaws, and there was a poster for Barbarian, and then I was like, oh, I don't know what that is. And then
Barbarian looks so interesting to me. I'm like, oh, I'm excited to see that. But another part of me is like, I'm a big scaredy cat, and it looks scary. It looks way more scary than that Smiley movie. I'm so fucking tired of that Smiley face.
Is that a Blumhouse movie? Because that looks like a Blumhouse movie.
I mean, I do like the swinging head at the end of the trailer. Like, I thought that was a fun jump scare. But I never want to see people like smile like real wide in horror movies again.
You don't want to see Blumhouse's Truth or Dare?
Ugh, pass. That's the movie that killed the smile for me. What am I looking up again? Oh,
next week? Yeah.
What movies come out? Let me go to Fandango. Barbarian.
Okay.
Beautiful Blue Eyes. Don't know what that is. Brahmastra Part 1. Shiva. I think we're gonna pass that.
No.
And then Medieval, starring Ben Foster. Did you see the trailer for that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's just like Do you remember that movie with what was it called? Like the Eagle with Channing Tatum and Jamie Bell. They're like Roman soldiers, and they have to like go and get the eagle from like the barbarians who stole their.
Wait,
like,
that was called the Eagle? It wasn't Centurion?
There was Centurion, but that I think starred Michael Fassbender.
Okay,
that was another like Roman story.
Yeah.
It essentially looks like those movies. It's just like knights going on a quest to like rescue a princess or to kidnap a princess to avoid a war or something like that. Just like low budget medieval style movie kind of thing. It looks very mediocre.
Okay.
So I think it'll be Barbarian because Barbarian looks freaky as fuck.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
And it's only an hour and 43 minutes.
Okay, all right. Not a tight 90, but
yeah,
it's close.
Close. I mean, probably 137 with 6 minutes of credits, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah, because after that episode is our 1 year anniversary, so.
So Barbarian leads into the.
I guess.
Okay, we should have done Rings of Power. Whatever. Not that it really matters. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I wanted to watch the Hobbit movies before I started Rings of Power. Didn't get around to that. Too busy watching Better Call Saul.
Hey, it's only 9 hours, man.
Oh, is that
give or take?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I mean, I'm off tomorrow, Labor Day.
You're just gonna watch 3 Hobbit movies back to
No,
okay.
I'm gonna watch Breaking Bad all day, probably.
All right, so tune in next week for
potentially Barbarian.
Potentially Barbarian, because we always say
knows?
Tune in next week for this, and then we don't have the time
still waiting
to do
on
it.
that Disco Elysium episode. We'll get to it sooner or later. All right, well, thanks for tuning in. What do you guys think of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon? What do you think of Tales of the Walking Dead? Do you think there's some good stories in there? So just hit us up if you want to suggest a topic for an episode when we're spinning our wheels for something to talk about. You can reach us at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter and Instagram, WRPL Podcast on both of those. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Good night.